Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Support comes from the University of Alaska College Savings Plan, helping you and your child save for college every step of the way, from diapers to diploma. More information at uacollegesavings.com.
When shopping for your family's meals, do you know where you can find Alaska-grown products? Everywhere. They're available at your local grocery stores and farmers markets across the state. Alaska-grown products are fresher and more nutritious, and buying local helps grow our economy. So just look for the Alaska-grown label when you shop, or ask your grocer where the Alaska-grown products are. Remember, Alaska-grown. It's closer, fresher, better.
And it's all Alaska-grown.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. A few changes going on as far as the show times go for the Alaska Weather Show. Particularly, KUAC now has canceled altogether the showing, which means it won't be shown at any time during the day. But ARCS APB here still at 5:30, and as always, 360 North still being shown at 7:30, and then KAKM 5 in the morning the following morning. And satellite imagery here showing kind of cloudy, showery conditions here across the southeast coast today. A little more in the way of clouds and showers occurring over the southeast interior. Back to the Kuskokwim Valley, upper level low center right in this area. Southwest flow ahead of that actually pulling this moisture up in toward the southeast coast throughout the day today, with the high stuff already spreading inland there and the precipitation just off the coast. The main low center developing back to the southwest there. Otherwise, behind the upper trough, clearing skies, drier conditions now developing across Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. On into Bristol Bay, not too bad, some clearing there, dry along the Alaska Peninsula, maybe an isolated shower on the north side early on, and then a lot of clouds out here toward the Pribilofs, and basically a mostly cloudy day there across the Aleutians. Through the interior, you can see from about the Tanana Valley northward to the Brooks Range is a pretty sunny day today. Back over the western north slope, we have some clouds right through here. But during the afternoon, no precipitation being reported at all along the Arctic coast. There was some fog reducing visibilities at Barrow and particularly at Wainwright. Otherwise, not much change going on out to the west, but to the southwest here, again, warm front right through this area. A lot of moisture streaming in toward the southeast coast, the main low center developing back to the southwest there. This afternoon, about in this position with the warm front, still a fair distance off the coast, but there's quite a rain shield out in advance of that. And early this evening, the rain will already begin to start appearing here along the southwest coast. But earlier today, showers going over the northern panhandle and again back across southern Alaska in toward the Kuskokwim Valley, but again improving from west to east there as that upper low slowly pulls eastward. And otherwise, Cordova picked up about 1/3 of an inch of rain during the day today. Yakutat 1/4 of an inch, and right around 1/10 of an inch falling at Juneau, with lighter amounts down to the south. And anywhere from 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch falling over the interior. Dry to the north, basically dry to the south there, Kodiak, especially over the Alaska Peninsula. Areas of sunshine breaking out there. Same thing for the eastern Aleutians. Low clouds and fog, mostly north of the Pribilofs there in that band. Reduced back to the north, and then you pick up the fog here along the northwest coast and up along areas of the western and central Arctic coast there. This cloudy area associated with a weak warm front passing eastward there. Most of the precipitation looks like it was staying off the coast. Back out to the west, rain and fog at Shimia, but a developing storm system there south of the western Aleutians will begin to affect the area, start to pick the winds up here, particularly for Adak Island tomorrow, bringing a chance of rain in actually late tonight. definitely after midnight there. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, a few scattered showers across the southern Bering Sea, Alaska Peninsula on westward, and then this big storm pulling northeastward, so gale force winds coming into the southeast coast. This is roughly the position of the low pressure and frontal system at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So again, look for gales, gusts of 50 miles per hour, rain spreading northward and becoming heavy at times across the entire area there from Dixon Entrance on up to the north. Gale warnings also out for the southern central inside water areas later tonight into tomorrow. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, isolated showers now for the southeast interior and mostly over the southern Kenai Peninsula, but really drying out now back to the west, clearing skies for Kodiak, and look for some partial clearing to show up around Cook Inlet, and fair conditions up to the north with light winds. This front up here looks like that moisture will stay off the coast at least through tonight. Areas of fog, IFR, Bering Strait or from the Chukchi Sea through the strait down to near Nunivak Island. And then for tomorrow, we'll see that low center and the front edges northward. So we've got some gales in the forecast here for all the central Aleutians, 40 to 50 knot winds or 35 to 50 knot winds here in that area with rain heading over toward Nikolsky in the afternoon and then cutting off at about Kiska Island onto the west. Otherwise, basically high pressure or higher pressure here across the central and southeast Bering Sea, and that kind of bridging into the interior here. So the low pressure center moving northward off the coast there, that's going to create an increase in the north and northwest winds here. Should result in some pretty good sunshine. Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula right on down across Kodiak Island and back to the west, sunshine all the way out to the coast. Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound looking really good, as is the Tanana Valley. Holding on to some clouds here over the eastern interior, say from the central Tanana Valley down into the Copper River Basin. Partly to mostly cloudy or mostly cloudy with some scattered shower conditions there, gradually diminishing. But this low lifts northward, and so here along the coast with the big pressure rises, you see some 40 to 50 knot winds turning around from the west and southwest tomorrow as the front pushes inland. Rain gradually diminishing, tending to become more showery late tomorrow, more likely probably tomorrow night though. And then we've got up here to the north a front just off the coast again. Maybe some moisture grazing the Arctic coast, but whatever does fall will be quite light and definitely should be in the form of rain or drizzle with a colder air back off to the northwest. We still have this fog condition through this area into the northern Bering Sea. Otherwise, not too bad along the coast, just some variable clouds there. And then for the first day of the weekend, actually Saturday night, conditions improve here. The low center pulls off to the northeast. And then by Saturday and Saturday afternoon, kind of a last trough rolling through the area there down to the south. That's where the showers will be most numerous, but they'll also be diminishing throughout the day there. Just some scattered isolated showers and more clearing up to the north. And then looks like sunshine, North Gulf Coast into the Gulf of Alaska. On down toward Kodiak Island, you'll start to pick up some increase in the higher clouds there ahead of this system, but definitely dry conditions with light winds. Sunshine across all of southern Alaska with very light winds, and then variably cloudy, still partly mostly sunny here through the Tanana Valley up into the Yukon. And this front lying across the north slope now parallel to the upper wind flow, so really not much southward or northward movement, mostly west to east up there. There will be a narrow area of some light precipitation along that, possibly mixed there on the eastern Arctic coast. Chukchi Sea looking dry, northern Bering looking dry, winds on the increase there for the Pribilofs. Southeasterlies pretty brisk here for the Alaska Peninsula as the rain slides into that area there. Less gradient here over the, well, from about Atka to Unalaska, so winds will be a tad lighter there, but still pretty strong. Back from the northwest, northeast winds here for Atka, diminishing on out toward Shimia with higher pressure building in out in that area. Temperatures today, lower 60s here across the southeast coast. Warm spot 63 at 3 p.m. there at Craig. Heidelberg had 61, Sitka right at 60, and that same temperature also matched up at Skagway, Yakutat 58. Lower to mid 50s here, Prince William Sound, Valdez at 54. Lower 50s to upper 50s across the Kenai Peninsula, with Homer at 57, 51 in Talkeetna, with about a quarter of an inch of rain falling today. Lower 60s, Copper River Basin there with McCarthy at 61, Gunsight 53. Up to the north, 55 in Fairbanks, 57 at Northway, and lower 50s recorded at Bettles and over at Fort Yukon. Mid 40s, Arctic Village and over at Anatuvik. And for the Arctic coast, right around the 40-degree mark there, and kind of a range here across the North Slope, upper 30s to near 50. 41 at Kivalina, up to 51 at Kotzebue, and heading down the coast, you're about the same, lower to mid 50s there, Nome with 51, and McGrath 54 degrees, Bethel 55 with 50s all the way down into Bristol Bay. Lower 50s through the Pribilofs, lower to mid 50s here across all of the Aleutians. And for the lows tonight, lower to mid 50s here for the southeast coast, otherwise some upper 20s up over the northeast interior, 30s for the North Slope and Arctic coast, 30s to lower 40s along the southwest coast, 40s to near 50 for the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. And for the highs tomorrow, 50s, upper 50s for the Panhandle, upper 50s to lower 60s here. Could see some mid 60s showing up actually for the Susitna Valley. Same thing for northeast Bristol Bay with increasing sunshine. Mid to upper 50s through the central interior to the Yukon Delta with lower 40s or upper 30s and lower 40s here for the eastern North Slope, and right around 40 for the central and eastern Arctic coast, to lower 50s there across Kotzebue Sound and the Seward Peninsula. Flying weather tomorrow morning, definitely IFR here to start the day out across all of the Panhandle, the Yakutat to just east of Cape Yakataga. But VFR for Prince William Sound, could be some marginal stuff there in the southern Kenai Peninsula up to the north. IFR looks to be mostly around the central coast, otherwise marginal along the remainder of the coastline there, and slipping southward at least a ways across the North Slope. But looks like VFR out here to the west, I would think there'd probably be some marginal stuff, or at least patchy IFR out over the Bering Sea. So going into the afternoon, we've got IFR near and south of the central Aleutians there, just starting to pull in toward the eastern Aleutians, but VFR in the forecast all across southern Alaska. Marginal VFR, Arctic coast, North Slope as the IFR pulls off to the north and northeast. And the Panhandle, you can see some improvement throughout the day tomorrow as that front pushes inland. Things go from IFR to marginal here, but holding on to some IFR throughout the entire day for northern Lynn Canal. Passes Anatuvik and Adigan will be VFR throughout the day tomorrow. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy, same forecast, windy. Good VFR, Isabel, Mentasta, both VFR, Tanita, VFR, and Portage, also VFR. Chilkoot and White, IFR, definitely better on Saturday. And for the freezing levels, for that upper trough, slowly moving eastward, late tonight, early tomorrow morning, 4,000 feet, that cold pool there, right over the western Alaska range toward the Susitna Valley, trough extending southwest. Southwest to north flow, again, that warm front coming up, so we got 10,000 feet pushing in ahead of that system into the north central Panhandle at the surface up here from northwest Canada back across the northeast interior. And then not much of a gradient out here to the west. We got 6,000 feet. Then you got to get all the way out to the southwest Bering and the western Aleutians to rise to about 8. And for icing, again, the system and moisture slowly pushing northward. So areas above about 8,000 feet, Kiska Island, spreading in late in the day toward Nikulski, icing free everywhere else out that way. And then in the Panhandle here, could be some moderate rime or mixed icing there over the northern Panhandle and extending back to the west, all streaming northward. That whole condition improving throughout the afternoon in toward the evening. And the jet stream for tomorrow, there's that upper low pulling eastward tomorrow afternoon, right roughly in this position there. Southwest flow, 70 to 90 knots, right in across the central southern southeast coast. Higher pressure over the northern Bering, drier northwest flow following that in behind. Up to the north there, kind of a west-northwest jet there at about 50 to 55 knots. That's going to be stalling that front out along the north slope there for Saturday. Then another system south of the Aleutians. 9,000 feet. For tomorrow, light winds, high pressure ridging centered over Kamchatka Peninsula. To the south, increasing 50 to 55 knots. Central Aleutians right out of the east, lighter for the Alaska Peninsula. Northwesterlies 30 knots. Western Alaska Range, Kamishak Bay, down across Kodiak Island. The strongest winds heading in toward the Queen Charlottes, 30 to 50 knots across the Panhandle as that low lifts northward, diminishing late in the afternoon. Up along the Arctic coast there, we've got pretty brisk on the east side, 25 at 3,000 feet, and I believe it was 30 at 9,000. Lighter back to the west and south here. You can see the interior, not too bad at all, 5 to 10 knots, but increased pretty good along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, 35 knots. Sweeping southeastward around that low center, up to 40 knots out of the southwest there for the Panhandle, 20 knots to the north. Lighter winds, more variable with the ridge there over the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. And then easterlies up to 55 there for the central Aleutians. And then again falling back to about 25 towards Chimney-Attu. Turbulence looking something like this, light or moderate chop, occasional moderate chop there. Atka on out to Kiska, below about 5,000 feet, and northwest winds giving that familiar pattern here. Lee side of Kodiak Island, occasional moderate chop, Kamishak Bay, southern Kenai Peninsula, on up into Prince William Sound, and then lighter turbulence into south central Alaska, along the North Gulf Coast, and occasionally moderate there for the southern Panhandle. And after the break of Stargazer, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecast and the ice edge.
Up all night with the harvest moon.
Welcome to Stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dehne Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory. We're here to help you find your way around the sky. Friday, September 16th is the official night of the harvest moon.
That's right, Dehne. Fall is coming and I guess it's time to harvest the crops. Traditionally, the harvest moon really helped farmers a lot since it lit up the sky the entire night. It rises as the sun sets, rides high across the sky most of the night, and sets as dawn breaks.
So, we're going to follow its path all night and check out the sky in early evening, after midnight, and just before dawn. Let's go to the evening sky.
Okay, we have our sky set for just after sunset on the night of September 16th facing east, and the harvest moon is just rising above the horizon. People often ask me if the harvest moon is bigger than other moons.
Sometimes, but not always. The moon changes its distance from us, and when it is closer to us, like last September's harvest moon, we get to see a supermoon. This September, it will look slightly larger than average, but will not be the largest full moon of the year. That will occur on November 14th and will be, ready James, a supermoon.
Another question we get a lot is, why does the moon look orange when it's low in the sky like this? In order to reach your eyes, the light of the moon has to pass through more of the Earth's atmosphere. That extra air shifts the color to the reddish side, just as it does to the sun at sunset.
Now we have our sky set to around 1 a.m. and I'm glad I stayed up late, because when you face east, you get a preview of the stars of fall, like the V-shaped face of Taurus the Bull, and just above it, the Pleiades star cluster, also known as the Seven Sisters.
But at this late hour, the harvest moon is so high in the sky, we better fly up there. At this point, it's actually the morning of September 17th, and the moon is just past its full phase. But it's hard to tell. In fact, on the previous nights, September 16th and 15th, it was almost full as well. So for several nights in a row, this lunar beacon would shine down on your fields and give you enough light to work by.
Now that the moon is high in the sky, the reddish tint is gone. Through a telescope like this view, the moon is so bright that it's hard to see fine details. You can see the dark areas called maria and rays extending from the larger craters. But if you're going to look at the full moon through a telescope, I'd recommend wearing sunglasses. It is bright.
Good morning, everyone. It's now 6 a.m. and we're facing southeast. About halfway up in the sky, you'll find the three distinct stars marking Orion's belt. Down to the left is the really bright dog star named Sirius. And up and to the left of that is the little dog star called Procyon.
Getting up before sunrise like this lets you preview the stars of the coming seasons. Orion, Sirius, and Procyon will be the highlights of the winter evening, but for now, you can catch them in the early mornings.
Now, let's face west, and the harvest moon is sinking lower in the sky. As we move forward to 6:30 a.m. and 7 a.m., the moon begins to turn orange again, just as it did when it rose a half day ago.
And by 7:30, the sun will have risen in the east and the moon sets in the west. So, during a harvest moon, you experience 12 hours of daylight from the sun and 12 hours of moonlight from the moon. My question is, with all this light to help them harvest, when do the farmers sleep?
So look for the harvest moon rising on the night of September 16th.
Then stay up late to watch it light up the September night.
Or get up really early to see it set as the sun rises. Keep looking up.
Welcome back. Looking at CS analysis for today, about the same as what it looked like on Monday, which is about the same what it looked like late last week. So it looks like everything's kind of continuing in a stationary status quo here for the next few days. And onto the marine forecast, gale storm force winds coming in later on tonight and into tomorrow. Northeast 35 on the north coast, around 50 knots here for a time on the central coast, and 40 down to the south. Stevens Passage southeast 40 knots, 30 knots for, or Clarence Strait of 40 knots, Stevens Passage 30 knots, north 15, northern Lynn Canal. And then they'll swing around to variable or south, only at 10 knots there in Lynn Canal for Saturday. South 15, central inside waters down to about 20 knots for Clarence Strait. Small craft advisories, westerlies at 25, 14 to 15 foot seas here. So the small craft advisories actually extend all along the coastline there, but the winds will be quite light up to the north. And then for Prince William Sound, northwest 20, higher gusts, northwest 30 with higher gusts here for the north Gulf Coast area. Small craft advisories back to the west, kick into gales there for the Barren Islands and extend up to Kamishak Bay and southward along the east side of Kodiak Island. Westerlies at roughly 30 for Shelikof Strait. Cook Inlet, though, much lighter winds out of the northwest. And for Saturday, becoming light and variable for northern Cook Inlet. Also kind of laying down for Prince William Sound, still from a northwest direction, and northwest 15. North Gulf Coast, seas coming down to 7 feet. Small craft advisories continue, though, through Saturday for the Barren Islands and down the east side of Kodiak Island, with seas running 8 to 9 feet. Lighter winds for Shelikof Strait and still 20, but that's down from Friday for Kamishak Bay. Bristol Bay tomorrow, northwest 20. That wind pattern all the way down to Cape Sarachev and then back up to Castle Cape. And then looks like some westerlies at about 30 from Castle Cape on up to Sitkinak. Then for Saturday, with that front pushing in from the west and southwest, come back to 30 knots southeast here to east on the north side. East 15 for Bristol Bay, southwest 15 to 20 here for the water southwest of Kodiak. Out in the Aleutians tomorrow, good gales out, 35 to 45 knots turning northeast here west of Adak, and then dropping to about 30 knots late tomorrow afternoon towards Shimia. Southeast 20 on the increase late tomorrow afternoon for the eastern Aleutians. And then we've got some gales there for the Fox Islands, 35 to 40 knots east-southeasterly, seas 10 to 16 feet. 40 knots here on the north side of the Aleutians, turning northerly at about 45 west of Adak, north 30 out towards Shimia. And for the southwest coast, northwest 15 tomorrow, seas 3 feet, light winds for the Pribilofs and westerlies at 15 for St. Matthew Island. Same thing for St. Lawrence Island, the seas just 3 to 4 feet. And then for Saturday, southwest 15 here for St. Lawrence Island. Basically high pressure, slight gradient, light variable winds there from the southwest coast back across St. Matthew Island. Northeasterlies kicking up to 25 knots with the seas building to 9 feet for the Pribilofs. And the Arctic coast, east side, that's where the winds will be the strongest. Westerlies, 20 to 25 knots, 5 to 6 foot seas. Lighter conditions back to the west and down to the south. And then for Saturday, west-northwest here at about 10. Then you swing around to the northeast on the western coastline there at about 20 knots, and it's northeast all the way over to Demarcation Point, but running at about 15 here from the central coast on eastward there. And 3 foot seas, that's a mistake, 36. It's 3 feet all the way along. And for tonight, again, big storm heading into the Panhandle, so rain becoming heavy at times here this evening on toward midnight. Winds coming up, good gales in the forecast there, gusts of 50 miles per hour. Scattered showers over the southeast interior with decreasing clouds here, gradually shifting eastward and southward and extending back all the way up to the western north slope. And then the next storm coming on up here toward the Aleutians becomes more of a factor tomorrow. As this system lifts over the northern panhandle, those winds will begin to swing around, change direction. Still pretty strong here along the coast as that low center pulls inland, but the rain gradually diminishing throughout the afternoon. Sunnier conditions back over south central Alaska, northward through the interior. And then that front pushes eastward to the Alaska Peninsula here on Saturday. 30-knot winds, as I mentioned, forecast there for the peninsula. A lot of rain on back out across the central Aleutians. Sunshine over much of the interior, a weak front in the north slope, and less rain in the Panhandle.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.
Is most likely a chum.
Find your living without leaving where you are. Fisheries Technology from UAS.